Things have changed in the last 20, 30 years when we had a farm on every quarter, of ground. Today we don't have that. There's not the people out there, it seems like, and so it's harder and harder to get, and there's a lot of people like me that has to have a job and farm on the side, so it's people don't have time to help neighbors out like they used to, it seems like, and it's so there is a very, there is a real need for farm rescue, I feel, because they, and I think it's great, there's the sponsors and the volunteers, and I mean it's very well needed, and it's a great organization. So I had a horse that I was going to ride. I went out and saddled him up, and it was first week of June, I think it was 7th or 8th of June. I got on him, was going down a section line, and he started to buck me off, and I really didn't, I don't really know exactly what happened. It knocked me out, basically. I woke up, I'd lost my glasses, but I had my cell phone yet, and I had my mom and dad's number in there, so I just hit the first call that I had, it was the last call that I had made was their number, and my mom happened to answer the phone, and I told them I'd gotten hurt and they needed to come get me. So when they got there, I was sitting in front of my house at the picnic table, and I was, pretty much knocked out. I'd made it back to the house, but I don't even remember that. And they took me into the hospital then, and I spent the day in the hospital, and went home, and I just continued to have bad headaches, and just kept, just wasn't getting any better. I fought it for 6 weeks until the middle of July, and I went in, and I kind of lost my balance. I was getting to where I couldn't hardly walk, I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and I went in, and I came to work, and then I called them, and they right away told me to come up, and they did a CAT scan, and they discovered I had a bleed on the brain, a subdural hematoma is what they call it, and it was just putting pressure on my brain, and that's why I was having bad headaches. And so I went right to Sioux Falls and went to Avera, the emergency room, and within 20-30 minutes I was in surgery. They went in and cut open my head and took away the subdural covering on the brain and washed that out and cleaned the blood off of that and put me back together, and I just was in intensive care for 2 or 3 days and in the hospital for another couple days, and then I was home for a month probably. Wasn't able really to do anything, and wasn't able to lift anything, or just really wore out. And so I just turned 50, so things don't happen quite as fast as they did when you were 20. I figured that out. But farm rescue came in. My dad and some neighbors cut the hay, and then farm rescue basically come in. They had 3 guys there. They run the baler. They brought their baler in. They baled the hay and helped rake the hay with our equipment. But RDO had the tractor and the trailer and the baler. Truck and trailer hauled it down. It was a very, very nice equipment. Yeah, worked great and everything went well. So yeah, it was really great of them to sponsor that. And it isn't like they're using a bunch of old secondhand equipment or anything. It's all brand new and clean and set up good. It's ready to go, field ready, I guess. So we put up about 400 acres of hay, roughly. Did about 500-600 bales of hay. That's what it ended up being. Yeah, Will Rodolphe, Paul Tom, and Dennis. I'm not sure what his last name was. There's three gentlemen came, and they did a great job. They were just went out and did it on their own. My dad and brother were around there some too, and I was still kind of recovering, so I didn't help them do anything. Basically, they just did it. So yeah, they did a great job. Of course, you don't someone to pick up the load, but I was in a situation where, you know, I needed to help, and they were willing to do it, and came right in and did it. And you know, I had a good friend of mine that kind of made the initial call for me. I was actually in the hospital first time that they called me yet, so I, you know, was willing to take the help. But it's always hard to ask for help, but sometimes there's a time when you need it too, I guess. So, you know, I knew a guy that had built a newer hunting lodge, so I called him up. I said, "Can you put these guys up?" "Yeah, you know, I'll put them up." And when it came down to it, you know, this is great. I'm not going to charge you what I told you initially. You know, I think he gave them a deal, and they, you know, they needed. We had to put fuel in the tractors and stuff like that. You know, the guy at the gas station stayed open went down on Sunday morning, filled the tractors up. You know, everything. It just, yeah, it was all new. The local newspaper lady came out, did an article, and you know, so the perception in the community was very good, and I think it was new to the community, so not a lot of people knew really what was going on, you know. But so no, it was very well, you know, well taken there in Wessington Springs, you know.